What is up, YouTube? Happy 4th of July. Transmission's almost ready to go back together. I got the valve body and separator plate all put back on. This is pretty close. It's just, got to double check on this spring for the TV cable return, which is pretty much working like it's supposed to, but I want to make sure I get that locked in place proper. New shifter is in, and we were pretty much basically a gasket away from sealing this all up. So valve body goes in, then the separator gasket, or the oil pan gasket, and the detent for your gear clicking. Need to go back in here before I put that valve body on, but we're pretty much there. Since it is 4th of July, shop is closed, which means I do have a full day, and I meant to get out here early this morning, but got caught up editing some videos and doing some other stuff around the house. We have a little bit of shade out here in the driveway, so got the Falcon in the driveway, and this thing's coming out. So I don't know if I'm gonna get the whole motor out today. I know they're calling for some rain in a couple hours here, but I want to get jamming on this and at least get it prepped to pull. We're going to pull the motor and the trans on this one because that AOD on the bench is going to go onto this motor, and I am waiting on new ARP head bolts for the GOFAST parts we're going to throw on. So if we come back into the garage real quick, I'll show you what we're working with. I mentioned it in the other video. If you haven't seen it, ideally, where did I put those heads? Oh, yeah, I cleaned the other day. Trick Flow 170 heads and Trick Flow Stage 1 cam with push rods and valve adjusters. So I'm going to rebuild the top end of the motor in the Falcon, seal up the bottom end where it's been leaking oil around the dipstick tubes, and ideally Bowman shift kit trans will go in. Fingers crossed everything works proper and we have a hard shifting fun vehicle. We'll get after it. Well, you would think after last year's fiasco with the wiped cam motor and having to flip-flop this a ton of times, I'd know exactly where to start. I'm thinking we'll start with the battery and then some of the front dress stuff. Battery, radiator, oil cooler. What do I want to do with the trans cooler? Now it's all hooked up, so I got a lot more to avoid, but yeah, let's just start at the front and work our way back. I decided to start with the radiator. Might as well make a big old giant mess first. So we are going to drop the lower radiator first and hope that all of this goes right in the catch pan that I put underneath here. Of course it's gonna fight me already. Step one, already being a pain. Screwdriver it is. Doesn't want to cooperate, so we're going to start up top. That one kind of worked. The problem on the bottom is I can't get to it. All right, change of plan. Start with the battery. Give myself a little more room here. I'm gonna set you guys up on time lapse and kind of bounce back and forth. Not much to talk about yet. All right, set you guys up on the fender. I can't get to this one with the cooling fan on the radiator, so I'm gonna drop it off of the actual water pump. This one's accessible. And then once I get it off, I'll loosen that clamp and clock it so we can actually access the radiator at a later date. But for now, we're going to try and contain this into one catch pan. Never know if it's actually going to work or not. So, let's start jiggling some stuff. Nice and rusty, I guarantee it. Oh yeah, straight rust-colored coolant. That's what you want to see. I do think I caught most of that in the drain pan though. That's impressive. Grab a rag, we'll be back while this drains. Lower hose is draining all the fluids out of the block, all the rusty coolant. Pop the upper free, which I already separated at the top of the radiator. So we're gonna do a pretty good flush on this motor while it's out too, I think. Hopefully I can remember that later on. But I'm gonna set this hose back on here just so I can remember which one's which. Not that that would be that difficult to figure out later on, but if I can keep it all together, why not? I don't have to worry about losing clamps and having to replace those. And we gotta just pull this catch can line. Catch can will stay in the car for overflow. Stay in here. And we're gonna try and leave as many of the wires in here as possible too. And now we'll come around, yank out the radiator. We'll give me the most room. Oh, coolant lines for the transcooler. Forgot about that. I'm gonna have to separate these two. I'm gonna turn this into one giant oil pan. So lots of fluids to spill. Thinking about it, I think I might actually be able to leave the transcooler there because we're gonna have to pull those lines off the trans down below. So instead, keep going on the radiator and snake this thing out of here. If you want to see the wrong way to mount a radiator, use this disassembly video as exactly what not to do if you're putting a radiator in a car. This is literally all just kind of slapped together as quickly as possible. I'm kind of hoping that if we just tip this a little bit, we should be all right. Lots of zip ties up here on the wiring harness for the electric fan that's just hooked up to a toggle switch. So I'm going to cut those. What time is it anyway? 1:15 is kind of when we started this, so figure 1 o'clock. Just for my own reference later on. Oh, and in other news, got some really janky headlights going on this thing right now too. That might have to be a rewire video once we get this all back together. Got a lot of electrical gremlins to chase. Radiator's out of the way. Now I got lots of room to work. And this is wired up so poorly. Lots of hoses just kind of dangling around, so we'll just make a pile of parts over on the side of the house. Keeping it classy over here. Perks of working in the driveway when your garage is too full of motorcycles. Radiator's off, that gives me quite a bit more room. I gotta undo some of the grounds and some of the heater hose wires, so I'm gonna do that first, or hoses. We'll do those first. I actually have a heater in this, so this might actually have some fluid in it. I don't know how much. Really just a whole lot of rust. More so than any fluids. Get these going and draining. I guess we might as well just do fuel and all the hose clamp stuff first. I think that might make sense. Onto the fuel lines, I guess. This one can stay on the motor. Another screwdriver. Fuel line. Check. Then we got a bunch of wiring and stupid crap to take apart as well. So what do I want to do next? Wires? Yeah, let's do some wires. At least the simple ones that are accessible. Well, that's good. Hopefully that wasn't important. Got the distributor wires off. The red lead for our coil. I don't know what that other brown one or other one was. Clearly we didn't need it. Looks like we just got it looped for some reason. Tack maybe. Coil can stay on. Plugs can technically stay on. We'll see if those are going to get in the way in a while. Disconnect our choke. And I got some ground to deal with. Which also should get replaced when I put this back together. Because that's not good. I think I'm going to pop off this oil feed line next for the oil pressure gauge. That's going to have to come off. And then we'll do the vacuum line and the carb stuff next. It's funny, I forget how simple everything on here actually is. There's that. Now we're going to have to pull the temp sensor wire. Get that out of here. Maybe I'll remember to grab the right wrenches. I could pull the distributor and everything out too, but I'm kind of just trying to keep as much of the motor together as possible for now. Because, well, I'd much rather be working on all the motor stuff in the garage instead of right here. Alright, oil line's done, so now we got a vacuum line for the, I'm just thinking gauge-wise, vacuum line for the vac gauge. Fuel line stuff is separated from the car. Everything else is from the pump up. That can stay on for now. I think we'll pull the carb next. Carb's pretty straightforward. Just got 4 bolts on here. I know I do have a Holly carb for this too, but that is going to be on hold until we get the motor back in and fire this up, because I know how this carb is running. It's probably not ideally tuned for the trick flow heads, but it should be in the right ballpark. Like I said, it is a running carb. We yank the cotter pins out of here, our TV cable off, pull our bracket. Oh, you're an Allen key, aren't you? Of course. Allen key and probably metric. Yep. Per usual, GoPro got too hot and overheated, so while I was waiting for you guys to cool down, I jumped underneath the car, split the trans lines, which, they're still dripping right about there. Got rubber or steel hard lines coming out of the trans to some rubber lines, back up to the hard lines up here, which are going to get redone eventually too, but that's kind of where we're at. So now I'm going to pull apart the alternator wiring, and then I think I'm actually going to drop the headers that are on here. Hopefully I can get to all of those, because that's easier than trying to get to the exhaust bolts the way that's hooked up. And there's no good way of jacking this car up on the driveway, so I'm trying to avoid any undercar work. And I don't know if I'm going to bring you guys under there when I do get underneath there because of that. So on the alternator, I'm losing my shade spot, so you guys are half in the sun. Basically I just got to disconnect the hot leads here and the starter motor wiring down below. Shouldn't be too bad. Everything's up here on the solenoid. So how are we gonna do this one? This can come off. So this was all bridged together. I think this was supposed to be my quick kill, if you will, for the track or neutral safety switch thing. Something like that. I don't exactly remember. But this can come off. Alternator wire goes there. And then I gotta chase through the rest of this crap to see what else we need to get disconnected from here. I don't remember if this is the starter trigger wire or not, so we'll keep an eye on that one. Or what this one was for. Got a lot of wires over here. But we got those couple free. Don't remember, this should be the starter trigger wire. Just went to the S post. And I is these other ones. I don't remember what's what here, so we're gonna kind of figure that one out. I have 2 red wires that I ran going to the ignition post and then 1 brown. Don't know what goes to where or what I actually need to yank out of here. So I'm gonna grab those cutters, now covered in trans fluid, and we'll cut the zip tie holding in the wiring harness. There's my hot side. This is really what I need to grab here. And I quick connected them, so really I didn't have to do much here. There is my engine wiring harness right there. This little bit of wires. The rest of these can stay. I probably didn't have to take all the ones off of here. Let me hook this right back up to where it goes before I forget. The brown went to the eye. And this was my S terminal. Just like that. This one I did need out, so that's fine. And we'll go back to the wiring on that later on. I'll loop this around here. That is all that it takes to run my motor. Sweet. So now I got a couple more things to do on the bottom side of the car before we start yanking this out, and then the motor mounts and stuff, obviously. But I think I'm gonna try and pull the headers off. I'm not gonna film that because you're gonna overheat again. Now you're in direct sun. So I'll be back when the headers are off. Well, that was about as much of a pain in the ass as I expected, but I got the header separated from the flange on the passenger side over here, and then managed to get into the actual exhaust flange from up here, so this header stayed on the driver's side. I don't know, I'm probably still gonna yank it off now that it's separated. I was hoping I could wiggle them out since they are so short, but I did not have room for that. So I'll yank the plugs off of this next. Make sure to bang your knuckles on everything while doing this. But now our plugs are free, or plug wires are free. So I'll pull this header just to give myself a little bit more clearance. I really don't know if it has to come out or not. Then we're pretty much on to trans cross member, drive shaft, shifter cable, TV cable, and motor mounts. So slowly getting there. I'll get this header off and then we'll be back. Got the headers off on both sides. This one, I got a pile over there, pile over here. Parts are everywhere. I just disconnected the starter wire from the starter solenoid or starter relay. Starter solenoid, I guess that's what they're called down there, right? But trans lines are cut or separated, the rubber section in between the steel lines. And now we're pretty much onto the motor mounts, I believe is all that we have left on the engine itself. And then we got the cross member and the rest of the stuff underneath the car, the shift linkage and TV cable. So everything on the trans and cross member. So I think I'm gonna loosen these front motor mount bolts now, actually, while I'm still up here on top. And maybe I'll try and take you guys underneath the car with me, but it's tight, just hard to see down there and dark. So we'll see how that goes. I got the driver's side motor mount done. On this style, I don't know, am I in the light here? Motor mount's right down there. And basically, there's one through bolt that goes from here all the way to the back. Yank that one out. You can see it on this side. This is the one we gotta take out now. So I'll let you guys come along for that one, maybe. If you're not in my way. I've got 9/16 hardware in here. I don't know what it's supposed to be, but this is what I got. And I'm guessing it's going to be too tight for the ratchet. But maybe if I can break it free. We got lucky. So here's the washer and nut. Then we have the bolt. reassemble these, and I'll leave them. These will go back on the motor mount once I get the actual motor out of here. So for now, it'll just sit on the fender. And just like that, the motor is essentially free right now. Cross member is going to hold it in place, and those motor mounts are going to keep it stuck where it needs to be until we put the hoist on here. And oh crap, I'm going to keep going to get this prepped. I don't know if the motor's coming out. There's a lot of stuff to move. I just remembered that my engine hoist is completely buried in the back behind multiple engines and multiple bikes. So I'm going to move 3 motors, this FXR, all the other crap in the way just to get that out, get that set up, and then we'll yank it out. So I'm going to climb underneath the car here, and well, I'm going to run inside, cool off for about 10 minutes, then come back outside. I might lay a blanket down because I'm sick of laying in rocks and dirt. Climb underneath and then start taking apart the trans stuff. All right, we're going old school, iPhone status. So next up, drive shaft, because we're now under the car, so I got one side semi-jacked up. Man, that looks a little sketchy. But on the back side, I can crawl underneath it. I don't have to worry, even if that jack gives out. It shouldn't kill me, hopefully. So we got the U-bolt, half-inch U-bolt bolts on the drive shaft, so we're gonna separate those real quick. Get the drive shaft out of here, and then we'll start worrying about the cross member and how I'm gonna jack it all up and figure out what we're gonna do from there. So let me get these bolts out. The bolt's free, U-joints are loose, so now I just gotta slide the drive shaft forward into the trans tail housing. That should give me enough wiggle room to get the U-joint out of the bracket. Drop the drive shaft, pull it, and we'll cap the tail shaft of the trans with a glove and a zip tie. If the GoPro didn't overheat, you would have seen all the suspense of yanking the drive shaft out without dropping these. So normally I like to tape these up. So I'll just shoot a roll of tape around there, then I can move this around as needed. Because right now, these U-joints are free, and I don't want these falling out and losing all the needles. And I gotta put the U-bolts back together and put those on there just so we keep everything organized. Now that the drive shaft's out, we're on to the transmission stuff. So here's my shifter cable. As crude as this is, I'm gonna pop this out, cotter pin for it. Washer, a couple washers. I'll throw these right back on there. This is probably all going to get readjusted with the new trans lever. Man, this thing's been leaking trans fluid like crazy. Well, let me throw that back on. I need 2 hands for that. Then we got to pull that TV cable out. I have the TV cable disconnected. I just threaded the bolt back in. I disconnected it up top from the car bracket. This can come out with the motor and trans, but this is going to get swapped over to the new trans once I finish that one. Then, where we're at now is shifter cable. So I got the end loose, but now I can either pull this whole bracket off, which I might do. It's 2 bolts. I might just rip these 2 bolts out, and then this will drop the entire assembly here and leave it like that, or I can unthread all of this. I think I'm just going to drop the 2 bolts because this bracket's going to go onto the other trans as well. Drop the 2 bolts, shift this bracket out of the way of the cross member, and then glove the trans, pull the cross member, and start yanking this engine out. I just took the whole bracket off, so loose threaded a couple of the bolts of the 2 bolts back in. Shifter cable and connections all dangling down here, all of which will need readjustment. But I don't feel like doing that right now. So TV cable's connected to the trans. Disconnected up top. I'll bring it up there and show you that. But now we're just onto the cross member bolts. So I got these 2 for the cross member, and then the trans mount bolts right there. There's one here, one on the other side. That'll separate the top of the trans from the mount. So essentially, man, Turbo M3, young kid, driving like an idiot through my neighborhood. So we have this and these bolts. 2 of these are accessible down here through the cross member. That'll separate the lower mount. This will separate that from the trans. So realistically, if I separate these 2 lowers and this cross member comes out, the mount can stay on. And we'll go up top and see what we're looking at before we yank this out. Pretty much down to the cross member now. Bounce back and forth between this and my iPhone. I feel like it's easier to film on the phone underneath the car for the little bits that I got taken off now. So we have the trans mount and the cross member, which are all kind of linked, but that's pretty much where we're at. I did not bring my carb support plate to yank the motor I also don't know if I'm going to use it with the motor and trans. We'll kind of see what happens here. So I'm going to take the Volvo up to the shop, move that car, park that on the street for now. And I got to start digging out the engine stand. So 351, 302, and a 350 to get out of here, or at least move. Get the cherry picker out, roll that outside, all before the rain comes, because now they're calling for 50-60% chance of thunderstorms in about an hour and a half, 2 hours. Let's see if we can get this thing out. If it starts getting dark and cloudy before I can actually get all of this out to the car, we're going to kind of put it on pause until tomorrow and just have it ready to yank out. So, be back after a quick little blast to the shop. You know, there's 4th of July fireworks all day long terrorizing my dogs. Oh well. You know that realization you have when you gotta move stuff constantly that you just put away the other day and realize I have too much crap? Well, that hit today. Moved all 3 of these motors, dug out the cherry picker, forgot about these wheels I got sitting in the corner. A bunch of 21 spools and mini drums and lots of chopper stuff that we're gonna use at a different point in time. Who knows when, but gotta keep it. So cherry picker's out, let me get this set up. And I just got back from the shop, grabbed the motor mount plate, so we will put that on, get all of this laid out, and then climb back underneath the trans and start ripping apart the cross member. All right, so motor mount plate, still have the car bolts on here. So we yank these off, just put them there to keep them out of the way. Hopefully everybody else is enjoying the 4th, doing barbecue, family things, or hitting the beach or something. Boats, who knows? This isn't the most exciting way to spend your 4th of July, that's for sure, but I don't have that much time these days, so I'll take what I can get. It still always amazes me that these 4 bolts can lift as much weight as they usually do. So let me grab a 1/2 inch socket, we'll run these down. You know what, leave it to me to put all 4 on. I'm gonna pull these off and throw some washers on there. That'll make me feel better. We added some washers to the carb spacer plate, so that should be about good. Like I said, everything on the front half of the motor is good. Set up the engine stand or crane, so that's pretty much good to go. Now I gotta figure out what I wanna do on the bottom. I gotta support the transmission a little bit, get that ready to be propped up. I think I got the jack underneath the car on the other side, which is gonna come off here shortly. But we gotta pull some of these mounts on the transmission itself. So I think what I'm gonna do is drop that jack, see if it gives me enough room to get underneath here. I don't really want to put it up on jack stands because this is my driveway. It has a giant dip here. It's super unsafe on jack stands. So I think what I'm gonna do is loosen some of these up without taking them all the way out, then start lifting up the motor. Oh, I gotta glove that tail housing too. Every time I do this in the driveway, I make a gigantic mess. So we're gonna try and avoid that because doing pretty good today. So let me loosen up some of these cross member bolts and things and get ready to start taking some of the weight from the motor out of the car. Well, I don't have a trans jack or anything, but I do have a scissor jack from a motorcycle and a big block of wood. So obviously my driveway slopes down on the right side, passenger side. So hopefully this will work. And got a glove and some zip ties on the tail shaft housing. Loosen the trans mount bolts already. Those are sitting on the floor or ground. So I got 2 of these on the cross member. I got a little bit of pressure taken off the transmission. So I'm gonna take these out, 2 3/4 bolts. That should drop the cross member down. And hopefully nothing shifts or moves and falls. It's not really a good spot to put you guys, so that'll have to do. Even see around the jack. I know it's kind of a crappy spot, but now we got that bolt loose. So we just got to do the same thing on the other side real quick. Let's be real. The only reason we're actually filming underneath the car right now is when I take this bolt out and the train shifts and falls over. It's going to be really funny for you guys. Right? So trans bolts, trans mounts, cross members free. Throw a couple of these things back on. And there's UTVs. Was it a Wildcat or Razor or I don't know. They're so annoying. Maybe I'm getting old. They're probably a lot of fun, but I don't have one, so I'm gonna complain about it. Just throw these bolts back in so I don't lose them. Keep them all under the car. And the same thing, this trans mount should technically come off. I don't think it's gonna come in or get in the way at all, but just trying to keep everything together. I already had to invent this wheel one time. Okay, how long are my arms? I don't have to get out and keep moving back and forth. All right, that should about do it. Now we're ready to start pulling this motor out. I need to yank the hood out. Maybe I can convince Dottie to come out and give me a hand getting the hood off of this thing. She's not in the best of moods right now, so if I don't come back, that's why. My other option is to try and take this hood off by myself, which I've done once before. God, I hate those things. I feel like it's a requirement that anytime you get into a UTV, you just gotta drive like an absolute asshole. I think we're just gonna go for the hood on my own. This is probably a really, really bad idea. Actually, I know this is a bad idea. Jam some rags in between over here so it doesn't slide into the windshield maybe. Not that these are gonna help all that much. Most likely gonna end up losing a finger. This is really where phoning a friend would come in handy. Strongly recommend it. Let's start with these two. Here comes the sketchy part. Start loosening. Come on. Whew. Man, those hood hinges, sketchy. We'll keep that in mind for this next one. Let me see if I got a rod or something I can prop this. Let's use the cherry picker. That's what they're made for, right? And here stand also doubles as a hood holder. Ooh. This is so sketchy and so stupid. Oh well. No shit. All right. Cool. Now I just got to figure out how to wrestle this off on my own. So let's come down a bit here. Don't do it that way. Call a friend, wait for a buddy. Don't piss off your girlfriend and be playing car stuff on 4th of July. Get help doing that. But I don't care about the paint or dents or dings, so added bonus. But she's off. I'm gonna rehitch this up, take a quick little break, because that was terrifying. And then we'll start trying to yank this motor and trans out. We are ready to yank this thing out. I know I had an engine leveler last time. I don't have that here today. Got everything kind of in position. Trans is supported in the rear right now, which means I'm gonna have to lower that jack and keep bouncing back and forth, because I'm probably already bottoming out. Yeah, I'm already hitting the tunnel here on the transmission. So tunnel bolts are already hitting the trans, which is fine. We can make do with that. But now I gotta drop the jack in the back and hope that this doesn't fall and destroy something. So let's see how this goes. Trans only slid a little bit there. See what happens. We're off the motor mounts now. God, do I hate doing this by myself. Maybe I should make more friends. I don't know how much wiggle room I'm gonna have here. Man, thought I was recording for the last 5 minutes, 4 minutes of wrestling this out. I dropped the ball again. So you can't trust this guy to run cameras. We're up, we're free, motor's coming out, trans is still attached. Ooh, there goes the distributor cap that I knew was gonna be an issue. Luckily those are cheap. We're in it to win it now. Wasn't broken until I turned the camera on, go figure. So he broke a trans line. Well, about to break two trans lines, but that's okay. Trans line and a distributor cap. So now we got room. Come on. What else am I caught on? Oh shit, Speedo. Let me get the Speedo drive out. Whoops. Other than that, I think we're in pretty good shape. Stuck on a trans line over here, which is fine. Those need to all be remade. So I got that free. Got one bolt on the Speedo cable that I totally forgot was even hooked up, because that actually kind of works. Let me take that out real quick. Speedo drive cable bolt is free. Come on. Shit. I was doing so good at not making a mess today too. And then I just geysered that. Pulling the Speedo cable out when your entire trans is tilted to the backside, not the greatest idea. Let me grab a drain pan. So excited about that today too. Every time I do this, trans fluid all over my driveway, guaranteed. And I didn't spill a little bit of coolant, but that's no big deal. All day today, until now. Come on. There we go. All right, we're just gonna let that drain for a little bit. Man, that sucks. Not that I care about my driveway all that much, but it sucks making giant messes. It finally started drying up from the last job. Probably this. I think I caught the glove on something. Overall, if I only forgot the Speedo cable, that's not too bad. We're pretty much out of this thing. Let me let this drain for a little bit before we start moving it, and then we'll get it out the rest of the way. Still dripping a little bit, so we'll let this trickle. Maybe you guys can see that through the firewall that's no longer there, or the radiator. Core support. Let this keep dripping down. Trans leak, well, drip, not really a leak when you pull the plug, has slowed down to a tiny, tiny trickle. It's gonna make a mess. There's no ifs, ands, buts about it. I don't have a plug or a block off thing for that. Fuel pump's leaking a little bit, as it should, being tipped like that, but that's fine. I think we're ready to wrestle this out the rest of the way. God, this driveway is the worst. Everything's free, motor and car wise. I think I'm actually gonna come down just a smidge. It's hanging up on the trans vent. And come forward. Stupid driveway. Now we're hitting the pan, so we gotta go up. Like I said, we're almost free. Now I'm just fighting my crappy driveway. Like so. A little higher. Drop the Speedo drive cable off of the trans mount that it's caught on. Okay. We're floating. I'm so pissed. Almost did this entire thing without making a mess. One busted distributor cap. One trans spill on the driveway. Overall, not the worst. So. Get it up over the firewall and sneak it back. I hate shaking motors like this. Come on. Almost there. I hate having them this high in the air. I don't know why. It just makes me nervous. My old cherry picker used to not like this either. Especially when I started losing pressure on the last time I yanked the van motor out. Come on. For anybody that actually has a nice driveway, I automatically don't like you. Let's see which way we can spin this thing. This is what years of tree roots do when they grow underneath your driveway. They make you do things like this. All right. Let's take some of the pressure off of this now. Whew. Boy, was that fun. Motor and trans are out. You can see how bad this thing's been leaking now. Empty engine bay. I'm gonna sweep up the driveway a little bit, try and get some of these rocks out. Throw these two bikes back in the far corner, and then put the motor and trans right up front by the garage door. Get the service cart put away, and then I'd like to try and throw the hood back on. It's supposed to get some rain, but we beat the rain. 4th of July engine pull. Now the fun part of wrestling this across my busted ass driveway. It's been a solid 5 minutes. I got trans fluid on the driveway. Motor's made it that far. I've been dragging this thing. Still dripping, because I need to get it level and make it stop leaking out the tilt shaft housing. But my driveway sucks. Come on. A little more. 5 feet. Come on, girl. Yeah. Should be good enough. Ish. At this point, I don't really care. Enjoy the heavy breathing. I earned it. Whew. Oh, that's not where I want that. It's gonna take up way too much room. Another 2 feet. That's where she's staying. Way too hot, way too sweaty. Again, make friends. Get help doing this crap. Way more fun that way. New home for the 302 for a little while, I guess. More driveway to clean up every time. This time I made it till the actual motor pull before I made a huge mess, so I'm kind of impressed with myself, but the oil stains just dried up from last summer. There's that. Now I gotta beg Dottie to give me a hand getting this hood back on before the rain comes. That'll wrap this one up. Thanks for watching. Happy 4th of July, everybody. Hope you guys are having a good time, doing all the fun things that people are supposed to be doing. Relaxing, fireworks, boats, grills, burgers, brats, all that fun American stuff. Or hot rods. It's pretty American, right? Happy 4th. Lots more videos on this coming real soon. Catch you on the next one.